Welcome. We are going to do a refresher course on the registration station software and the customer portal for those of you who used our system last year and just need a little review. We're going to begin by logging into the customer portal. This login screen may look a little different. Let us know if you're having any issues logging in. You can always try to reset your password as well. Another note here is that we recommend using Google Chrome as your web browser. Internet Explorer no longer works well with our software. Go ahead and download that Google Chrome browser so you have that ready for this season. Once you're logged in, you'll see we have a new landing page here. We'll put important messages in the orange and blue boxes for you and any additional information that we may find helpful. In the gray box, you'll see any units that are linked to your account, as well as their status as to when they were last synced or uploaded. We'll start by basically reinstalling that Zadig driver required to run the registration station. For whatever reason, when a big Windows update happens, it sometimes kicks off this driver, so we'll need to reinstall it in order to get our registration station working again. Go ahead and go to the My Account section. We'll start by reinstalling the Zadig driver required to run the registration station and program your employee badges. For whatever reason, when you do a Windows update, it can kick this driver off, so we're going to go ahead and reinstall it. So click that Zadig link and find the download button here. Then you'll want to go ahead and run or open this program. You'll want to hit the options, list all devices, and then you'll want to select the option that says SCL3711-NFC and RW. Next, you'll select the option in the box to the right of the green arrow, LIB USB-WIN32 version 1.2.6, and go ahead and reinstall or replace that driver. You should see a success message. And now you should be able to open up your registration station application. Just remember, you'll need to plug in that USB reader writer in order to open up your registration station. And remember, you can install this registration station app and Zadig driver on multiple computers. You'll just need to have that USB plugged in. On the initial install, you will need that customer ID and customer secret, which is located on your portal under this My Account page. And it's always easy to create a shortcut on your desktop, so it's easy to open up and find this application. By entering that ID and secret, you're linking the registration station to your portal account. And the username and password is the same that gets you into the portal. All right. Now we're going to go back to the portal and just kind of run through some of the basics. So we'll start up in the Manage tab and go down to Portal Users. This should all look the same from last season. Remember, you can add as many portals as you'd like. The emails are important if you need to reset the passwords at any time. And you can set different admin roles for each user, the user admin being the user that can access anything on the portal site. Okay, next we'll go back up to Manage. General Settings. You may see the workday start time, which is something new since last season. If you have workers, many of which are working over midnight, we have a way to better accommodate this so that the daily and pay period reports are better reflecting the work that's accomplished and putting those hours on the correct day. So we'd be happy to help you set up this if you have workers that are commonly working over the midnight shift. Other than that, this should look pretty much the same. You may need to update that minimum wage rate. Other than that, we will continue to move on here. Just remember to save any changes you make. Up to manage, we'll now look at the employee profiles. Remember that the profiles are a way to group your employees by similar or the same break information. Something new on this page you will see is non-productive time. We now allow you to enter in a certain number of minutes after or each day, so we can accommodate that non-productive time that's required to record, at least in California, and it's making its way up to the Northwest as well. Let us know if you have any questions about setting up the paid and unpaid break time. Basically, the report will take this time automatically out of all hours worked and put it into these separate columns to help you with your payroll. Just remember, when you add new employee profiles, to properly link the employees to the correct profiles. All right, back up to manage. We will go down to containers. Remember, you use containers if you're using the FairPick Pro or FairPick Lite systems. No big changes here. You can set your containers to be standard, tracked, individually tiered. So pretty straightforward, no changes since last season. Remember that the containers do determine the piece rate, so you have one piece rate linked to one container on both the Pro and the Lite systems. So if you go to the piece rate screen, you'll see all of your containers for your FairPicks on the left. If you click on your container, this is how you change the piece rates. Just remember, if you set a new piece rate, to double check that the date and time is correct. We do use the 24-hour clock format, and then just save it and it will show up on the right-hand side. If you do make any retroactive piece rate changes, remember that you will need to recalculate your reports by being in edit mode and going to your daily report. When you're there, the recalculate button will show up when you're in edit mode. So if you do make any, like I said, retroactive piece rate changes, you'll want to make sure that you recalculate your report to make the updates. All right, for now we will go back to manage, and let's go down to tasks. So if you're using the QuickPick, the FairTrack, and even the FairPick Lite systems, you will be using this task system. The top level is this task. So for example, you can keep track of pruning, keep track of even your harvest with FairPick Lite, any other hourly jobs. So when you add a task, remember that once you set the name of the task, you will not be able to change this name. You can always inactivate it if it's not quite what you want. Then you'll want to choose the task type. So if you're using FairTrack, you can choose hourly tasks, piece tasks, and container tasks. If you're using the QuickPick, you'll be selecting piece tasks. For the FairPick Lite, you will be doing the weigh tasks. You will see any lists that you have in the list box. Just remember, if you want to select multiple lists, to click on the name and then hold the Control button down on your keyboard and select the multiple lists. You can have up to 5 lists per task, and then that payroll code, remember, is just an optional field. Just remember to save your changes. And our system for piece tasks and container tasks, they will ask you to set that piece rate. For hourly tasks and for weigh tasks, we do not link that to a piece rate. Okay. We will now, let's just show you the manage and go to lists. So to create a new list, you just click that list button, give your list a name, and then you can add one or more items under this. So I always give the example, if you're doing the apple harvest task, you would have a variety list, and then underneath that you'd have Gala, Red Delicious, Honeycrisp, etc. There is a way to import the list items, and we can walk you through that if you would like. It's pretty straightforward, and our system will give you instructions on what that file needs to look like. Just remember, after you add your new list into the system, you will need to go back to your task and then make sure that your task now has that list selected. I always forget this step, so if you're wondering why your list isn't showing up on your FairTrack or your Quick Pick, this is probably the step you missed. Okay, let's move to the Employees tab. No big changes here. You'll see we've just made some of the filter boxes a little more clear and easy to understand. The Add Employee button is a little easier to see. You can add an employee one at a time, just as before. Nothing new here since last season. Just remember that the ID is really how we differentiate between people in our system. You can have up to 6 digits, alphanumeric. And then remember that crew boss checkbox, you'll need a crew boss, or what we're calling a key card, to use the FairPick Pro, as well as the Quick Pick systems to unlock certain features or tell the unit to upload, for example, on the FairPick Pro. You'll only need 1 or 2 typically crew boss cards or key cards with your systems. And then remember, as I said before, just that the employee has that correct employee profile assigned to them. Another big reminder here is that you'll see the badge ID column. And remember, if there's a number in that badge ID column, it means that the employee has been assigned a badge. And an employee can only have one badge programmed to him or her at one time. So it's really important when you assign those employee badges to double check that a number appears in this column after you have assigned them a badge. And we'll go through this real fast here for you. It's really important to double check this, because if an employee uses an unassigned badge, the data will be recorded, but it'll be sometimes a little tricky to track down who was using that badge. So it can save you a lot of time in the long run. And you'll see here that the number we're looking for is that card ID at the bottom. So we'll want to make sure that this number did show up after we refresh our page here in the employee screen. Okay, you can do some batch changes when you're in the employee screen, like inactivate several employees at once or change the profiles all at once. So we do have some batch tools in this screen that should make it easy for you. Okay, we'll move on now to some of the logs. So we'll go to the task log to start out here. So we were just talking about badges that didn't properly link to an employee, and we've got a checkbox in here to make it easy to identify if we have any of those unassigned badges. So when you check the checkbox, you'll see if there are badges that were not properly linked to an employee. And we do have a way to batch edit this and assign it to the proper person. You'll just want to select the checkboxes individually or select that top checkbox on the top and then choose the appropriate person to assign those entries to. So since last season, we've implemented other batch item or batch edit features that should help you when you make mistakes recording data out in the field. So one of which is this employee batch edit. You can do task batch edits, containers, etc. So if you do run into a situation where you're having trouble with some data that needs to be changed, let us know. We did make it easier with these filter check boxes to identify some of the other what entries have been edited and added, just so you have a good audit trail of what's been going on with your data. Just to go over too, remember this rejected checkbox, the red one up at the top there, will show you items that our system, for example the Fair Pick, if you had a minimum scan time or minimum weigh interval set for a container, it will identify the entries that were rejected, meaning they were scanned within that minimum weigh interval. Same thing on the Quick Pick. If you had 2 badges scanned within a couple seconds, it will reject the badge scans, and you'll need to review this data. Highly recommend you review it after every day. Just do a quick check on these boxes, see if there's any data that should remain rejected, or if you should basically accept, or let's say you know that it wasn't a double scan but was just somebody logging 2 bins or 2 logs at the end of the day. You'll just want to make sure you restore these entries, because rejected entries are not used in any of our reports. Other changes since last season, we've just kind of changed around the filter boxes, tried to make it a little bit easier for you to sort through the data, but nothing that I can think of that won't look too differently from last season here. Same thing, if you go back up to log, you'll have your time clock log, which will just filter out clock in and clock out entries. And you'll have your weigh log, which does the same thing but filters out entries that have to do with weighing on the Fair Pick. Okay. Just a reminder, after you do any editing, before you have your data ready for payroll, look at that daily report. In edit mode, you'll see that recalculate button, and just make sure you recalculate to make sure you take into account any of the changes you made in edit mode. A couple cool features we did add to the daily report is basically a smarter way to identify when people forgot to either clock in or clock out. So we have these little message boxes that'll show up. If it says invalid clock in, it means that the employee looks like they did not clock out for the day, so you'll want to add that in edit mode. Remember, we do that 24-hour clock. And then if there is, it looks like a forgotten clock in entry, the report will have that little flag and it will say review data. So again, just a way to easily identify when somebody forgot to either clock in or clock out in the field. Just a reminder, if you do have any custom reports made, you'll find those under Reports and Custom. We highly recommend that you review your custom reports and make sure that they are functioning like you would expect them to. If you do need any changes to your custom reports, please contact us and we can work through those. If you're interested in a custom report, we can also start that conversation to get you the data in the format how you need it. Please let us know if you are experiencing any difficulties. We do have a new resource page that should make it a little easier to find our different user manuals and our training videos. We do have a new support policy, so take a look when you have a minute just to go over that policy. We still have our 24/7 support line when you're experiencing any issues or have questions when you're out harvesting. We'll have somebody in contact with you pretty quickly with that support number. So give that number a call, especially if you're outside of business hours.